Ladies and gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. I am Noah Selby.
I'm Wes Selby.
And we're back. Halfway point. Done. Over.
Wow.
We're through. Second half of the season. Get ready for some second year breakouts. Here we go. Things are right in the football world. So they seem. Guess we'll break it down today and talk about it a little bit. We got a good show for you guys today. Fluke or for real, waiver wire, victory lap, and of course a Thursday night football preview. Should be a good one. A divisional matchup we get on Thursday. Should be a good time. Before we do all of that, follow us on all of our socials. Everything is linked down below. And we're giving away a signed James Cook jersey this year. If you are to a random patron, a giveaway. That's linked down below, patreon.com/Fourth and Troll Fantasy. We also have merch linked down below. And Wes is wearing it. I almost didn't even ask because we haven't worn him the last couple episodes. I hadn't even noticed yet. I'm just so non-self-aware and lack of my spatial surroundings. So head on over to that, fourthandtrollstore.com. You can check it out there. We got totes, hats, shirts, stickers, magnets, buttons,
dogs, apparel. We have dogs.
Just dogs.
Yep. We have dogs.
There's a callback.
Right,
like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And Wes, we have some news to talk about before we jump into things.
We do. Quick reminder, because we care about all of you. Be aware of your bye weeks here into Week 10. Seahawks, Browns, the Packers, and Brock Bowers. Because why even mention the Raiders? It's just Brock Bowers. Okay, and also, trade deadline. By the time this episode is out, we are recording this, as most of you are aware, the Monday night. So we have not, we don't know all the big names that have been dished out to other teams. Just pay attention to that. Have a lot of fun with that. And also pay attention to your fantasy football trade deadline. A lot of weeks. Next week, a lot of leagues are going to finish up their trade deadline. Keep that in mind for any last-minute moves to help you get into the playoffs and win it all. Okay, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys for a second. First of all, Dak Prescott was ruled out with a hamstring injury. I don't know if you also saw he had a swollen hand. Doesn't matter because he's going to be out multiple weeks with a hamstring injury. Right now, no IR confirmation, but definitely multiple weeks with a hamstring. And on top of that, CeeDee Lamb sustained a shoulder injury. They called it an AC joint, and he's considered week to week. What a great time down in Dallas. Jerry's World's having a blast. Guess who's also having a blast? The San Francisco 49ers, because they have their superstar player returning to practice. That's right. Christian McCaffrey. He's back. He's practicing.
Oh, my
They're ready.
goodness.
We'll see how the Achilles tendonitis holds up. We'll see if he can start. But so far, all signs point to him playing this week. Sorry, Jordan Mason owners. Man. You got lucky. I hope you enjoyed those first 9 weeks with him. But CMC is back. Let's head over to New Orleans. There's a head coach vacancy available. Dennis Allen fired, finally, in my opinion.
You going to apply?
No, I don't want to have any association with that team right now. It seems like things are bad. The way everyone's calling out Derek Carr, things are not going great. But special teams coach is now the interim head coach for the Saints. That'll be fun. And speaking of, was he a Dolphins guy?
Darren Rizzi was our special teams coach for a couple of years. Yeah.
Oh, fun. Hey, so was Dan Campbell.
He's batshit crazy, by the way. He's insane. But
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the interim bump is a real thing, so line up everyone on the Saints because that'll be very fun. Chris Olave, as many of you saw, suffered a very, very, very scary concussion. He was taken to the local hospital. Seems to be doing well. We have no idea what his game status looks like, but just keep that in mind. Drake London left early with a hip pointer. He's considered day-to-day. A.J. Brown exited before halftime against the Jaguars with a knee injury. Thankfully, it's not believed to be anything serious. Should be okay for Week 10. And Zach Moss is out indefinitely with a neck injury, leaving that backfield this Thursday night, all to Chase Brown. And one little note here. The NFL lifted Jamison Williams' suspension, so he'll be good to go this week 10. That's it. Let's talk about some of the best, biggest, and boldest calls that we got right in Victory Lap Tuesday.
Okay, I guess. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, we got things right sometimes, so that's good. I mentioned last week Bo Nix as a waiver wire ad. Didn't explode for 31 points or 35 points, whatever it was the week before, but got you a nice little 17.8 and is the top receiver on the team. So there you go. That's good.
That's right.
Shout out to that. That was great.
That was sweet. Contested catch.
I started Cortland Sutton in a league, and I was like, I'll take it. I don't really care. Whatever. Yeah. It's 6 points. There you go. Matthew Stafford was my stud. And listen, it was scary for a while. Okay.
For a long while.
The whole thing that my big reasoning here was when he throws 31 or more passes with Puka and Cooper Kupp in the game, he averages 27 fantasy points a game. And then Puka got ejected, and it was like, oh, well, we might be screwed. And then DeMarcus Robinson was like, nah, you're good. Don't worry. I got you, fam. We're all good here. And Matthew Stafford got yourself there to a decent, respectable fantasy day as well. Maybe not studly like you were hoping with that 27 points that he averages there, but not too bad. Another guy here, my stud wide receiver, Devontae Smith. Listen, it was another sweat. And that's okay. Yeah. That's the fun of fantasy football, man, because they were in like the third quarter or the fourth quarter, and it was like, cool, he has one catch for 6 yards. This is neat. And then he became prime Randy Moss, and then just was like all over the place, and his touchdown catch was unbelievable. And how two of the most athletic things I've ever seen on a football field happening in the same game was that touchdown catch, and obviously Saquon Barkley's backwards hurt. Not even backwards hurdle. Saquon Barkley's sorcery that he committed on the field on national television, ridiculous. Incredible. And then I don't know. I think we just keep doing it every single victory lap because Devontae Chen is the absolute shit, dude. I texted you and I was like, it feels so good to like have been so right. When like 60,000 people on our TikTok told us we were wrong.
Yeah.
And it was just like so many people watched it and they were like, you guys are idiots. There's no way. He doesn't keep it up. He doesn't stay sufficient, all this stuff. And yes, we know it was like 5 rough weeks without Tua. But with Tua, Devon Achane, I didn't even see where he ended up on the week as far as where as ranking.
I think he was.
Yep, cool. So he's second? Been with Tua. RB3, RB2, RB2, RB2.
It's insane.
Remember when I said, everyone, grow up if you don't think Devon Achane can be a top 5 running back this season? God, it was incredible. Anyway, that's our victory lap. Thanks for hanging out, having fun. And we hope you listen because it's a good time. And Wes, you nailed it as well this week.
Particularly
running back. Incredible.
Proud of this one. I called my shot and said Chase Brown would be a stud on the week. I said roll him out. There's a lot of good reasons. The matchup looked nice. The Raiders give up the 10th most points.
Dude. And it wasn't like Zach Moss hadn't even been rolled out yet.
He hadn't been ruled out yet. That was the other thing too. Like you were like T Higgins matchup, all this stuff. And then I saw Zach Moss. I was like, oh baby, this is gonna be incredible. Like, and he was, speaking of Achane, he was also top 3 on the week, if I'm not mistaken, in running back points. So he was incredible, and I definitely think is considered to be in your starting lineup going forward. You know who shouldn't be rostered is my dud that I said last week. That's Nick Chubb. I said Nick Chubb is a dud. And if you're part of our Discord, you were part of a very fun debate going on. There's a lot of people that were back and forth. We had someone who really felt strongly about Nick Chubb not being a dud, and Noah came to bat for me. We're like, dude, the Chargers is great.
I think the rebuttal was if he scores a touchdown, he's gonna score 20 plus points. And then after the game, I went, hey, by the way, I'll spot you 2 touchdowns and he doesn't even score 20 points. So there you go. Yeah.
The Nick Chubb season is done. There's no need to. The only reason to have him is just because he's a starter and you'll get some carries. But otherwise, wait till next year for Nick Chubb. And then last but not least, similar to you with your waiver wire, I said Xavier Legette was a waiver wire ad. fine game. Had a fine game with Bryce Young getting a W. There might be some more opportunities for more touchdowns for Leggett because he had another touchdown. He's been great, but that's it. And speaking of waiver wires, let's talk about these waiver wires going into week 10.
It's on. It's on.
It's on, dude. On like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, dude.
Waiver
wire. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. A couple guys here to talk about. Some decent names and some guys that I think are going to be some potentially immediate impacts, immediate maybe flex plays, flex considerations, and some longer plays as well here. So here you go. Starting out here with my guy who's somehow only still 36% rostered. It's Demario Douglas. If he's out there on your waiver wire, you need to get him. Another game with Drake May. Another 9-target game. He leads the team in targets when Drake May is playing, and he's riding in the double digits in fantasy points whenever May is there, and they're there together. And so this is a good guy to have on your team. Drake May loves him. He looks at him a lot, and he bites his lips, and he throws the ball to him, and he's just Look at that guy right there. He's wide open. Gonna get that guy the ball. Here's the long play for you. Ready? Audric Estime. All right, rookie running back out of Notre Dame in Denver. What happens every single year? A rookie running back starts to break out over the second half of the season. Well, naturally, no, that's going to be Jonathan Brooks, right? You'd think so. You would think so, but I'm gonna maybe say here, Audric Estime could be gearing up for a second half breakout. Sean Payton has gone on record saying he deserves a bigger role. And I went and looked, and he hasn't been getting a whole lot of opportunities, but he's running at 6.3 yards per carry this season, and he doesn't have like a big 70-yard breakaway touchdown to skew that. Like, he really is just picking up chunk play. Running backs are scarce, and he's available everywhere. He's only 5% rostered. Why not take a shot here? He could be impactful for your team. However, he plays the Chiefs next week, so don't start him yet. Yeah. Just get him, hold him, and see what the opportunity looks like. If not, you can drop him. But we could be looking at a potential second half breakout here for this rookie running back. And then my last guy here, listen, he's a fun guy to hate on, but he's been solid. Is Jerry Jeudy. Okay. Cedric Tillman, I think, has been getting a lot of the praise, and rightfully so. We called that out, and he's been awesome. But Jerry Jeudy has 19 targets in his last 2 games. He's had double-digit fantasy points in his last 2 games, 12.9 fantasy points or more in each of the last 2 weeks, and he hasn't scored a touchdown. So some big bye weeks coming up as we gear up for the fantasy playoffs. I think he'd be a decent flex play filler for you. And he's out there all the time. He played 100% of the snaps this past week, 95% 2 weeks ago. He's consistently in that 90+% of snaps mark there. So, and he's only 65% rostered, so he should be out there for you. At least that's in sleeper leagues. I would assume he's probably not rostered much higher in the ESPN or Yahoo potentially. So, again, like I said, he's fun to hate on, but he's actually been kind of solid, and I think he's worth picking up. So Jerry Jeudy rounds out my waiver wire pickups there. Wesley?
My 2 waiver wire pickups are also somewhat long plays, but also just, speculative ads, okay? No one really stood out that isn't rostered this week. And so we'll be talking about those players that did stand out in our Fluke for Real segment coming up. So I'm going to say, let's talk about a certain wide receiver in the AFC South who has been sneaky good. Nick Westbrook-Akine. Had a solid game, okay? And he's going to be one of the top waiver wire ads of the week. But I don't think people realize just how good he's been. He finally got the targets get to a 16-point. Did you know he's had a touchdown in 4 straight games?
Not until you texted me your waiver wires. I was like, why the hell is Nick Westbrook-Akine in his waiver wire? I pull up the game log and I'm like, what the shit? Like what?
Exactly.
Like what?
Yeah. We've seen it this season when a number 1 wide receiver is traded to a different team. The wide receiver 2 has stepped up, and Calvin Ridley had a great game following the DeAndre Hopkins trade, but Nick Westbrook-Akine has been really good. So I think if you're looking for someone to fill in for the bye week, if you're looking for someone to have long-term in case he does become someone great, go get this guy. And then here's just a shot I'm going to take. And if this pans out, I'm going to take a very long 12-minute victory lap on this one. But I'm going to just say
14 laps.
With all that's happening right now in New Orleans, Cedric Wilson should be on your mind. Don't spend a waiver priority. Don't spend fab on him. But in case Chris Olave misses next week, Rashid Shaheed is done for the season. If Bub Means is on IR.
Yeah.
I mean, who else is that ball going to go to? Can't keep going to Foster Moreau. And Alvin Kamara, sure, he's been fine, but Kendre Miller is also an IR. Like, no one is healthy on this Saints offense. So Cedric Wilson, who had a nice game 2 games ago, I think should be worth some of you monitor going into this to week 10. That's it for the waiver wire ads going into this week.
Cedric Wilson, I think, is an interesting one to talk about. I actually wonder, real quick, sorry. I actually wonder if Chris Olave plays football again this season. They're 2-8. He's had multiple concussions within the last year. He's had 2 concussions in the last month. Yeah. What is he playing for? They're 2-8. They just fired their head coach. At this point, I think I'll be more surprised if by Friday we're not saying in the news that he's on IR, and then they're just gonna at this point. Yeah. What are you playing for? You're just gonna have a top 5 pick, get a rookie quarterback, help him develop, be him. But at this point, dude, just take it easy. I'm not one to say I get annoyed and bothered when people are telling Tua what to do, and I'm not telling Chris Olave to retire by any means, but I'm just saying dude, at this point, what are you playing for?
It's a different scenario.
So Cedric Wilson, interesting pickup.
Yeah. Because if Olave was a quarterback, this would be breaking news. I mean, this would be the first topic of Monday and probably even going to Tuesday. But because he's not, and because the Saints also just suck, it's a very different conversation. But anyway, Cedric Wilson, keep an eye on him.
Fluke for real. Here we go. You know it. You love it. We're breaking down the biggest, best performances and some of the down performances that we got to talk about here. Starting out with Mr. 3-letter name, Mr. Breakout. Finally, we'll see what happens next week. And that's what we're talking about now. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba, 37 fantasy points, 7 catches, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Dude, oh my gosh! I hope I didn't bother to check. I didn't think about it. What his starting how what started him, what the percentage was, but man, because it's been rough. It's been rough goings. And last week there was no DK Metcalf, and a bunch of people started him, and he sucked. And it was man, is he it came into question, man, we might have been wrong. He might not. Every opportunity was there. What happened? Well, he heard all that, and 37 fantasy points, dude. I mean, best of his career, maybe. Forever going forward, or are we going to see better than this ever?
No, this is definitely a career high, and this is going to be incredibly tough to beat. To answer your question, I pulled it up on Sleeper. He was starting in 55% of leagues going into the week.
Decent,
I started him in every league. I have him in about 4 leagues.
Yeah, except for one. I still won that fiance. Week, I faced your fiance in fantasy football this week, and she started him.
Thank you for your stat
I didn't even realize
to give for the W. Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
What do you mean?
Tight game.
37 points? One. I mean, 44 points. Duh. I mean, you really missed that. Yeah, there you go. No, I was I had a solid percentage, and then I looked at it going into Sunday Night Football, and I was like, what the? And I didn't even realize she had him in the lineup. So big game there. Here's what we got to talk about. DK Metcalf is going to return to the lineup. There has been small rumors that DK Metcalf gets traded. I don't think that happens. He is
Monday. We don't know.
Right.
This could be a very silly conversation.
We'll see.
Why would they trade him?
I unfortunately have to. Based on this season, this is not an indication of what I think of the player because I love him, but based on the season, we've had like one other week like this, and besides that, we've been like widely disappointed. So like even after a 37-point game, I still struggle to like be excited about putting JSN back in my lineup.
So he has only scored over 15 points twice, and that was that week 2 great game. And more specifically, he's only scored over 13.2 points twice.
Right.
So it's even more specific. So here's the thing. I love JSN. I've been a believer. There was a reason he was the first wide receiver taken in the previous year's draft class. And there's a reason that he has become the wide receiver too. So he's definitely has a talent, and he can be someone that can have some really solid games going forward. But you and I were talking in our Discord. You can access through patreon.com/fantasy. This is a great opportunity to trade. Trade him away if you've got him. And I don't think the recipient is going to get got. Like, I think it's a fine trade. But there is no one that is ever going to have a higher price going into the NFL or going into the fantasy football trade deadline than a guy who just dropped 39 points. Yeah, there you go. I don't know what you're doing, but I believe in you. And on your phone. Oh, perfect. Good move. And you have an extra week to do this because the Seahawks are on a bye week. So you have even more buffer to let people panic and try to accept this offer. So I do think for real, but I think an even better opportunity to trade him away. You can still trade for him if you spend a lot right now, but
the price,
I like what you were saying in the Discord. I'm going to say it as your claim into the mic. For real, but I think trade him.
Cool. All right. Quentin Johnston. Big touchdown. 70 yards, 60 yards, something like that. But he gets 22 fantasy points, 4 catches on 5 targets for 118 and a touchdown. This is where I'm kind of like, show me again, because the Chargers have been throwing the football a lot more. Shout out Loud McConkey. But I don't know if I'm going to sign up for 22. So, I mean, he's out on waivers. We didn't bring him up in the waiver wire, but it could be a decent pickup and something to monitor. But I'm going to say Fluke for right now.
I'm in 100% agreement because not only has he missed the 2 games with an injury, but it's 6.8 points in week 1, then 22, then 12, then 2, then 5. So this is a really boomer bust player. I'm in agreement. This is a fluke.
Cool. Austin Eckler, 17.3 fantasy points in Brian Robinson Jr.'s absence. Do we start to see a little more of a split backfield here, Wes?
I think so. I don't think it hurts Brian Robinson, though, but I'm starting to lean towards for real. I'd love to see this again next game, especially because they have a pretty tough game. I think against the Steelers next. That is a good test to see how this rushing attack looks. Jaden Daniels will still be fine, but Eckler is starting to look more like himself from not last season, but the year before. He's starting to run with more power and more speed.
Yeah, dude.
He's
quietly looked so good all year.
Yeah.
His efficiency is off the charts. Here's his yards per carry throughout the season so far. 5 yards per carry, 4.8, 11.7, 11.2, 2.3, 4.3, 7.4, and then 3.8 in this last game. But he gets in the end zone there. He's the RB12 on the week. He's quietly been really good. I would like to see him get more opportunities because, the Washington Commanders offense sucks, right?
I know. Dude, they need help.
So bad.
They should trade for DK and CD Lamb.
Keep an eye on this, because if this split happens more and more, I think it'll be exciting for sure. Rico Dowdle, 21.7 fantasy points. Are they going to finally give this guy the keys, or the keys just be like a shitty 93 Civic? Like, is that what without Dak, without CD, does this matter now?
It's like a parent who's like, we're gonna give you a car finally, and you're like, yes, and they're like, it's gonna be a beat up, shitty, run down car, so you can scratch it and get it banged up without taking major consequences. Yeah, I guess it takes Dak Prescott leaving with a hamstring injury and CeeDee Lamb getting an AC joint and suspending Ezekiel Elliott for Dowdle to be like, yeah, I can have a pretty solid game. So I can't help but call this a fluke, especially with all that going forward. I can't buy into it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, if they give him the keys, maybe he becomes flex worthy, but I mean, it's hopefully, I don't know. He's clearly the best running back. I just don't know how good the offense is going to be anymore, but we'll see. Yeah. And then Taysom Hill here, Wes, 16 fantasy points, 4 catches, 41 yards, 5 rushes for 19 yards and a touchdown. This might be more for real than I want it to be because everyone's hurt in New Orleans. And And now that Dennis Allen's gone, actually, Dennis Allen had a big old crush on Taysom Hill, but I don't know. Well, I don't know what really to think of this. This team is bad, but he's probably going to get some opportunities because they can't just give Kamara the ball the whole time. Anyway, next guy here, you already mentioned him, Nick Westbrook-Akine, 16 fantasy points, 6 targets, 5 for 50 and a touchdown. This is looking for real.
Yeah. I don't line him up right away, but I said, I feel like you should go get him, put him on your roster, but I think it's for real enough to keep him on your team or to go add him to your team and then see if he continues this touchdown streak or at least can get more targets. But yeah, I think this is for real.
Cool. Yeah. Mike Gesicki, 27 fantasy points, 5 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 gritties. We've been on a roller coaster with Gesicki this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold back my comments because he's actually going to come up in our Thursday Night Football preview for me.
Okay.
I don't know if you would like to share anything at the moment or you want to just tease it and wait till we get there.
I'll do a little bit of both. Okay. This will be a light tease, but I'll still just kind of generalize my thoughts here. Without T. Higgins, this offense is very different. And we see that with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase has kind of struggled without T. Higgins, and that's very interesting. And I think that adds more attention to Jamar Chase when Higgins isn't out there. And so you see Gesicki do this, but as a Dolphins fan who has watched Gesicki for many years, this guy is a receiver. And that's partly why Mike McDaniel decided to move on because he wanted a blocking tight end. And now Jonnu Smith has like 6 targets in the last 3 games. I don't understand.
Right.
Anyway, but Gesicki is a great wide receiver, and if with how tight ends have been very confusing, I say for real, it'll be interesting how the matchup is week to week. But we'll talk about this matchup against the Ravens in a few moments here.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Demarcus Robinson, 27.4 fantasy points, 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks for Demarcus Robinson. Last week we called it fluke because it was 2 touchdowns on 2 catches on 3 targets. This week, I'm still going to call it a fluke, unfortunately, because Puka got ejected and he took the Puka role, and that was just kind of how it went. I think you're going to be wasting fab if you try and spend fab on Demarcus Robinson, and I actually don't. I don't think he's worth rostering because I don't know how you're going to determine when to play him. Like, unless there's an injury to one of the 2 top guys, I don't think he's going to have this value.
Well, I think that's the reason to roster him. I agree that it shouldn't be a lot of fab and he should not be your waiver priority for this upcoming week. But yeah, Cooper Kupp's been out there each of these last 2 games. So there's that as well that makes me, turn my head a little bit and consider Demarcus Robinson as a rosterable wide receiver. I give this 1-2 weeks tops before I drop him for my next waiver wire. But if he can get another 15-point game the next 2 weeks, he should stay on your lineup, or not your lineup, stay on your team because Puka keeps getting hurt. This is ridiculous. So,
and to his credit, as the wide receiver 3 end of last season, we saw him have some solid games. So he was getting in the end zone. He was he wouldn't really pass that 20-point threshold, but he would get in that 13 to 18 points. So he's not untalented. He's not just crap at football and he's just getting lucky. He's a good player who has a good quarterback throwing the ball. He's on a 17-game pace of 34 touchdowns on the season, and I'm like, well, hang on, guys, let's pump the brakes there. But he is a good player, so yeah, if he's out there, roster him, I think for sure. Let's loop these guys together, man, because this is really what it is. It's these guys together. D-Hop and Patrick Mahomes. 28.6 fantasy points for Hopkins, 30.6 for Mahomes. 8 catches, 86 yards, 2 tutties on 9 targets. Sounds familiar. Juju Smith-Schuster. Rashi Rice is what I really mean there, but still. But I think what I mean here is when Mahomes is in his bag with a wide receiver, that wide receiver is for real, and that's relevant. And Hopkins is legit, dude. Like this is sick. Like this is a good connection here, and I'm looking forward to continuing to roll this out. I mean, this is awesome. I think this is going to be, dude. The Chiefs are going to go undefeated. This is going to be so annoying. This is going to be so annoying. I'm a little worried
as a Dolphins fan that they're going to just keep finding ways to win.
Yeah, they're going to do it. But
I could have sworn Hopkins was going to get the game-winning overtime touchdown. I thought he was going to could have sworn he was going to walk away with 3 touchdowns. I mean, is there a reason to say he's not a lock in your lineup?
No, especially after this game. Like he needs to stay in your lineup. Yeah. He's at worst, and with where you got him at, he's at worst your flex play. Like with where he's being drafted, or if you picked him up off the waivers, like he's at worst your flex play. You have 2 wide receivers that are also great options as well. So he's a lock into lineups. He's got to stay there for sure. And then Mahomes, 30.6 fantasy points, 44 pass attempts. Okay. Like, here we go. Shifting back here a little bit. Are we going back into this round? Because it wasn't like they were behind. Like, this is a pretty neutral game script most of the game. Like, it was a pretty kind of just back and forth. I think it was a 1-score game the entire time. And 44 pass attempts. I get it. We got overtime. He didn't throw the touchdown in overtime, so this could have been an even bigger game for him. I don't know if I'm going to say for real on 30.6, but 44 pass attempts, I think, is maybe we're going to get back in the groove here. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
I think that we're leaning towards for real that Mahomes is going to be a startable fantasy quarterback. And I know someone, I beat someone because they started Mayfield instead of Mahomes. And it came down to the wire, and it was just that one little decision. And it was in our family league, actually. Let me pull up just the final stat line. It just all the difference there. But I don't know why I'm rubbing it in his face. That's so mean of me. But it wasn't. It was a 13-point game. Anyway, that being said, Mahomes would have helped him win. Mahomes would have won that game. And I think now that people are seeing that, because he was absolutely on people's benches. Yeah, with Hopkins, Kelsey's picking up too. Kelsey's getting there. He's playing like that.
14 targets.
Yeah, like that. I think it was 12, something like that, but it's still crazy. And he had a fumble too. And Kelsey is still great. So we're at that point now where, Mahomes could be starting over your quarterback now. I'm leaning towards for real.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk about some bad guys. Jalen Waddle, he's a bad guy. Remember when I just told you I just traded for Jalen Waddle? That
you
sucks.
did. Stupid.
Saved my week on a touchdown.
Point and laugh.
Got screwed by the pitch play. I was like, it wasn't a big deal. He was only like 9.9 points, but then he lost like 23 yards on the he went to negative receiving yards. I was like, cool, nice, that's awesome. Not enough that I'm a Dolphins fan and I watched that happen, but I now get that in my fantasy lineup as well. 7.6. I am scared to roll out Jalen Waddle. I was looking at it today and I went, what happened? Like, what happened? Week 1, 16.5 looked good. Oh, there you go, dipshit. It was against the Jaguars. Everyone looks good against the Jaguars. Like I didn't bother to stop and think about that before I made a trade for him.
True.
But I think Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time. This feels for real because Devon Achane is the new wide receiver 2 on the team.
And
he's pacing for over 1,000 receiving yards. Like, this is insane.
Yeah. And it's just amazing how, like, I felt very strongly about Achane, and we both did.
Yeah.
I went as far as to say Achane was going to be the very
said
best
one,
running back in
4.
fantasy.
Yeah. It was. We were both top 5.
One of the points I made was that in training camp, because I want to look at Achane's receiving stats as I continue talking here and pull it up on my phone. But I pointed out in training camp that Achane was seeing so much receiving work that I half joked that he was like the number 2 target behind Tyreek Hill. And I was like, I don't know if that's actually going to be the case. Oh, it is. It's very much the case. If you take just Achane's receiving stats for fantasy, that's 8 catches. This is a running back. This is a running back. Devon Achane had 8 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. Achane as a wide receiver alone almost scored 20 points. So this offense in Miami is completely running through Achane. I don't know what's happened to Tua and Tyreek. Thankfully, Tyreek got 12 points. We debated putting him on this segment as well for the bad side, but 12 it could be a lot worse. But yeah, this is 100% for real. He's not a drop candidate just yet as you make your way towards the playoff stretch. But this is, I don't know what's happened in Miami. They completely changed their offensive identity. It's just Achane now, which is fine because you and I drafted him in the second round as much as like every league that we're in. So we're reaping that benefit, but I don't know what's going on there, man.
Yeah. Devon Achane was the wide receiver 11 on the week, by the way. Just from his receiving work.
What? Okay.
That's insane.
That's
insane. Imagine having Garrett Wilson in your lineup.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then put Josh Jacobs in your lineup.
Right.
And it's the same person. It's the same slot. It's same.
Just one.
You have 2 players in one slot. He's awesome. Oh my gosh, it's so incredible. Good. It's the only thing I'm happy about with the Dolphins this year. It's so much fun.
Same.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, Jalen Waddle to the bench, likely. Maybe matchup dependent. I don't know. Probably not. This is tough. Anyway, Kyler Murray, 4.8 fantasy points.
Oh my goodness.
Here's the thing. Ready? And a win. Like, unfortunately, Kyler didn't need to do anything. Like, the defense was incredible. And Amari DiMercato, they're just like running the clock out at the end of the first half. And he was like, what? Oh, you said run the ball out? I thought you said kick ass and run to the end zone. Like, I don't know. What
it sounds similar, yeah.
55-yard touchdown. It's been up and down with Kyler. More good lately than bad. But I think this is his worst game of the season, right? Like, this was bad.
Well, if it's not, then I would say for real. If it's not the worst,
this is the worst game of the season. I mean, this is the worst game of the season by like 7 points. So, I mean, he gets the Jets next week, so I can understand not wanting to put him in your lineup, and I understand that, but
I'm more worried about
then a bye week.
About the great wide receiver everyone drafted as the highest rookie drafted in fantasy football.
Wasn't that fun?
Out another dud.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm not super worried about Kyler. I mean, I've already moved on. I'm not starting him in my leagues where I have him, but I'm not dropping him. So there you go. I don't know. Yeah, and then Marv, 3.4 fantasy points. I mean, you suck, bro. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I thought they figured it out against Miami, and it was like, give him these, like, his route tree needs to be shortened up where he gets to, it's quicker passes, it's faster. I mean, it's just they're to be honest, the run game is so good that they don't have to pass the ball.
It is wild they took him that early in the draft.
I mean, they need, like, don't get me wrong. Like, for a franchise, sure. Like, I get it. But, like, also, like, what? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not starting. Yeah, Marv is going to be on my bench, too. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I've benched him
This
like
sucks.
3 weeks in a row, and I was wrong on one of those weeks. But like, if I just, the color-coded matchups is really helpful. This is the stretch he just finished out. You can't, the focus isn't getting there, but you can see he's got the Jets up next, and that's also not that solid. So he just went through a really rough spot in the passing and the receiving matchups. And then after that, it's looking fine. He's got a bye week in 2 weeks. It's Seattle and Minnesota, and then Seattle again, and then New England and Carolina and the Rams.
That's a pretty good end of the season. So maybe
he's a potential trade for candidate just for the playoff run.
Yeah.
You get him in the playoffs. Imagine, dude, everyone has insane weeks against the Rams. Can you imagine lining up Marvin Harrison for the championship in your flex because you traded for him? So
for the division, by the way.
For the division, possibly.
You know how good that game's going to be? That game's going to be so good. Dude,
I just talked myself out of saying this is for real, and now it's a fluke.
I know. Wow. Yeah. Buy him.
That was fun.
Buy Marvin Harrison Jr.
Buy him.
We're certifiably insane. Last guy here, Joe Flacco, 3 fantasy points. That sucked.
It sucked.
That sucked. I don't know. It was like suddenly it was like, hey, you got any Anthony Richardson back there? Like, I don't like maybe something else here for Josh Downs. Maybe we got something going on. Steichens doubled down though and said he is the guy for the rest of the year. Again after that game, and so
crazy.
Better days ahead for sure. I mean, the Vikings aren't a bad defense to just pass over.
Flores is a very good defensive coach, so that makes sense to me. But also, like the fact that he couldn't even find the end zone doesn't make sense to me. So I have to say that's a fluke. He'll be okay.
Yeah, that's it. All right. I don't know. Yeah, that's all. That's all we got for Fluke for real. Let's jump into a Thursday night football preview. Fun divisional matchup. We got the Ravens going up against the Bengals. Must starts, risky starts, and don't starts. Bezos, don't fail us. This better be a good game. We're gonna need it.
40+ points each team.
This will be a fun one. Must starts, guys, you got to have in your lineup. Must have them out there. They're going to help you out, starting out your week strong. Risky starts. Oh boy, this may be good. We might be feeling good, but a little hesitant, or I don't know if this is going to be all right. I don't know, Jim. Oh, Jim. I don't know, Jim.
Oh, here goes Mahomes. Oh, Josh and Mahomes are my best friends. Actually, I get them food and breakfast every day.
2 for $20 at Chili's. All right, and then your don't starts. Guys that you should not have in the lineup. Don't think about it, and we're definitely telling you, guys, chill out. All right, take it easy. I'm going to start out here with my must start, and this has an asterisk on it. Okay? My must start is Mike Gesicki. All right? This is if T. Higgins does not play, because Mike Gesicki's awesome when T. Higgins isn't in the lineup. Okay? Kansas City in week 2, 16.2 fantasy points. 2 weeks ago, he had like 7 catches for 77 yards. This past week was the tight end 1. What's the common factor? No T. Higgins on the field. He becomes the 2, and Burrow has always been a guy who uses his top 2 receivers very well. He becomes the guy. If T. Higgins is in, which I believe as of this moment that he will be, either that or he's going to be traded, to be completely honest. There's a part of me that was like, maybe they just held him out so he didn't re-injure himself so they can trade him.
Yeah,
like on
Monday Night Recording.
We'll see. Maybe by the time you listen to this, you might know. Yeah. But if Higgins is in, he's my must start. So it's interchangeable, Gesicki or Higgins. Over 12 fantasy points in every game so far this season, minus his first game back from injury. So kind of scratching that one a little bit, but 14.7 fantasy points or more in his last 3 games. And he's had 7 targets or more in every single game. Again, besides that kind of first one back from injury, he's been awesome. And so T. Higgins needs to be in the lineup. If he's not active, Mike Gesicki, boom, there you go.
Higgins has been so underappreciated this fantasy season. He's
been so good.
Absolutely insane. And he's winning weeks. I don't think people are realizing. I love that about Gesicki. That's awesome. Love gritty Gesicki. He's great. Here's the must start. It's also I feel like a little bit of a softball pitch, but you just roll him out after having an incredible game. This is no fluke. Roll out Chase Brown. He's been awesome. And Chase Brown, I think, has taken over that backfield, even when Zach Moss does come back at some point, if he does come back this season. But Chase Brown deserves to be in your starting lineup. And unless you happen to draft perfectly with your running backs, he's your flex option at worst. And I think that's a great way to start out your week. He's getting receiving work as well, a lot of good upside. And the Ravens have a pretty weak defense as well. And so mostly in the passing game that they allow a lot of points. But I'm taking my shot and saying you should roll out Chase Brown for this Thursday night.
Yeah, I like Chase Brown. I'm just a little worried. That's why he's my risky start. My risky start is Chase Brown. I 32 opportunities is great. I don't think it'll be that high against the Ravens. But without Zach Moss, he's a top 12 running back with like top 5 upside. Legit. Like he is, if he's going to get the volume, he's proven himself. He's been great. They love him. And he's a guy that's worth having in that lineup. As you said, Wes, he's at worst your flex play. The big thing here for him is he's also become the receiving back, which sounds a little backwards when you think about it, because Zach Moss, for some reason, you think about Zach Moss as more like the power, like tough yards guy, and he was getting the receiving work this year for the most part when he was in. So now Chase Brown gets more of the receiving work, 6 targets. It's awesome. It is a tough matchup in the run game. You know, the Ravens do have a pretty good run defense, but it's legit in the role he's going to play, and so roll him out. He's my risky start. I just wanted to. I don't know if you're going to get RB4 this week, but you'll get probably a top 12 week for sure.
What's awesome is my risky start is Mike Gesicki. So we're cautiously optimistic on both of these as a consensus here on Fourth and Troll. Even if T. Higgins does play, I think there's still a reason to roll out Gesicki just for the touchdown upside and for big plays and how porous the Ravens secondary is. But obviously it is still a risk because he has not been consistent, because if T. Higgins comes back, there's so many more targets that are going to be vacated from Mike Gesicki to Higgins. And as I just mentioned, Chase Brown has seen more of the receiving game as well. The one addition, though, I believe is Eric All. Is that right? I think Eric All is done for the year. Sadly. So their other promising rookie tight end is done. So Mike won't be out of the lineup as much as usual. So there's the reason I have him as my risky start.
That's fair. Cautious optimism on both these guys. My don't start is Deontay Johnson. No chance I play him in his first legitimate game. Even the divisional round, the divisional matchup. Got to see what happens. Listen. Sometimes we do Victory Lap Tuesday, and it's awesome, and you get to Victory Lap, and it's great. And other times, you eat a big old shit sandwich, and I said Zay Flowers was going to be a dud in Week 9, and he was like a top 5 wide receiver, and he had like 2 touchdowns, and we had multiple people on social media be like, Zay Flowers touchdown. Someone was like, someone said you owe me financial compensation for this, like for this
great.
call. Listen. Doesn't always work out. He's been extremely hot and cold, and he proved that. And he's like the first wide receiver this season to just cook the Broncos secondary. So the reasoning was there, the process was there, the product was a little off, But I'm not starting Deontay Johnson because I'm just not going to trust it in the first week of legitimate play with him. Short week. Still don't know how much of the playbook he's going to know, and just got to see what happens. I don't want to start out my week like that.
I already forgot he was on the Ravens. Already forgot, and I get it. He played 13 snaps, so there's no reason to really remember. But yeah, and now my top 10 rankings for Deontay Johnson is completely thrown out the window because he was going to be the wide receiver 1 on the team for the whole season, and then they traded. Why did they trade him? I don't what did the Panthers? And yet they won the very first game. I don't understand. It's like when they traded McCaffrey, and then Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard just destroyed teams for 3 straight weeks. It was like, what?
Yeah.
How does that? Anyway, the only other player that I think is in the category of a don't start in these very high-powered, awesome fantasy teams is, I'll take a shot. I'll say Justice Hill. That's too scary to start Justice Hill Yeah, you could be the person to be like, you know what, I'm gonna roll out Justice Hill. This is gonna be super cool, and then you get a touchdown or two because Ravens score 40 points every single game. But there's no reason to start out your week when you're in the playoff race with Justice Hill, barring a Derrick Henry injury, which I don't see that happening as he is made of adamantium. So that's all I have. Otherwise, literally, I think you could start like everybody. Like, I don't think there's someone that you can't explain why you're starting someone from the Bengals or Ravens. This is going to be an awesome game. This is going to be such a fun one. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, me too. Don't let us down. It should be a good one, and the Bengals are motivated. They need to make some wins happen to meet the postseason. So should be a good one. That's going to do it for the episode. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know if you're trying to trade anybody in fantasy football before the NFL trade deadline. Let us know if you have any predictions down in the comments. As always, follow us on all our socials, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And we will see you on Friday. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy.
4th and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media and Selby Artistic Workshop.